I tried Shopify Dropshipping for 5 years. Here's my story, the highs, the lows, and the lessons I've learned along the way. This is a timeline of my e-commerce journey and the road that I took. So let's back it up to 2017 when I first started dropshipping. I was 18 years old at that time and I was on a sabbatical year after high school. I was watching YouTube and a YouTube ad popped up and it was talking about online business and more specifically e-commerce. I was not doing much at that time and I thought that that was the perfect business for me to start because I can run it from anywhere in the world and it would give me the freedom that I always wanted. So I started by watching a ton of YouTube videos and eventually bought a course for $800. It was almost all the money that I had saved up. So with all the information that I acquired, I started doing dropshipping with Facebook ads. I launched my first store that completely failed and a second store that did only one sale. In total, I spent more than $200 on Facebook ads and I didn't see any results. So what did I do? I just gave up because I didn't have the mindset. But I didn't give up on dropshipping as a business. I just gave up on Facebook ads and quickly moved on to Instagram theme pages because I've heard of it from YouTube. So I decided to give it a shot and I chose the niche of Stranger Things. I DM'd a lot of fan pages on Instagram and built my store and started running ads. It gained success pretty quickly and I did $500 in my first week and I was over the moon. These were my first results and I was just so excited I couldn't even sleep. Quickly, I was able to generate a few $1,000s and eventually I would go on to make around $12,000 in total sales. The margins were pretty high, around 50% because the ads on Instagram were so cheap during that time. The issue was that I didn't have any money before, so I started spending it all on stupid stuff. Also, I thought it was pretty easy because it took me only around 1 month to get my first results, so I just thought that the money would keep coming in. But what I didn't plan for was all the negativity that came my way because I was dealing with the customer support by myself and it was so bad for my morale. I started procrastinating and I didn't want to do the work anymore. In May 2018, this store was almost completely dead because I stopped working on it and I just kind of gave up. But I still decided to leave my home country to go to Bali because I wanted to experience a different kind of lifestyle and I still had a little bit of money saved up. This was the first time that I experienced the digital nomad lifestyle and it was actually a great experience. And during this time, I was also launching a bunch of new stores and trying to make something new work. But I kept on struggling and there wasn't anything that was quite working out for me. And 3 months later, I had to go back home and started working minimum wage job. This was one of the lowest points in my life because I still knew that I wanted to pursue business and I wanted so desperately to be successful, but I couldn't make anything work and I just felt like a failure. So from August to January, it was just a pretty bad point in my life. I was living with my parents, working some jobs, and I was just trying to figure out what was going to be my next step. I finally decided to launch my digital marketing agency and I wanted to start closing local businesses as my first client. It was actually a super interesting experience, but I just wasn't a good salesman and I couldn't figure out how to close people on the phone or in real life and I just couldn't get customers. If I was more persistent, I would have probably found my first customers, but what I realized is it's not really what I'm passionate about, to call people, to ask them to buy services from me. I prefer to be behind my laptop and just do the work. After many months working on this project, I decided to leave France again, and this time we decided to go to Thailand. And I had one goal in mind, which was to become independent. From June to November, I really struggled to support myself financially because I had so little money left saved up and I was making a little bit of money from side projects, but nothing big. In November of 2019, my financial situation became critical when I had only $50 left to my name. I decided to start e-commerce again out of necessity because I told myself that I would never do this business again because of all the harm that it caused me personally. It was a very hard decision for me personally, but I didn't have a choice. I knew that I could make money with dropshipping because I already did, and I really needed money to keep supporting myself. I actually remember being on the phone with my mom, and she knew that I was really struggling, and she told me that I should just get a plane ticket back to France and go back to live with them. But this time I decided that I wouldn't give up on my goal, so I just told her that no, I wasn't gonna come back and I was gonna find a solution by myself. So what did I do? I started the same store once again. It took me 3 days to set everything up. I worked from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, and by the end of the week, I was able to generate $300, which was enough for me to survive for the next month. And for those who wondered how I did it with such a small amount of money, I had a 2-week free trial on Shopify, and I paid some small pages like $20. But then, when I had enough money to support myself, I decided that I would try to switch to bigger pages that charged more. I still vividly remember hesitating about this and spending $100, which was a lot of money for me at that time, on a big page that had almost 1 million followers. I know that seems super cheap now, but at that time it was possible to find a couple of pages at this price. And what happened next was absolutely crazy. I woke up to over $700 in sales that day, and I was mind blown. So I decided to repeat this process with other pages and keep advertising on this one, and eventually I was able to sustain really good numbers every day. I also quickly paid someone to do the customer service for me because I didn't want to deal with this negativity once again, and the ball was rolling. By May of 2020, I was working only 2 hours a week, mainly paying the pages for the following week, and I was able to automate almost everything else. I think a lot of people would like to be in this position, but for me, I just didn't feel fulfilled. I just needed more. But I fell in the trap of the comfort zone that I was in, and I started to procrastinate again. I did enjoy some of these months by traveling around, but I still felt that there was something missing in my life. This period of my life was actually pretty long because it was around a year, and I was able to generate between $2,000 and $10,000 in profit each month, so I was also living pretty comfortably. But in December of 2020, my whole life collapsed. My Shopify store got banned. You see, I did have some products in my store that were copyrighted, so this is why they shut me down. If you are thinking about doing something very similar, I would suggest to not do it and just do something totally legal to avoid all the problems and headaches that come with it. There is a lot of profit to be made from people's passions and hobbies, and you just don't need to use a copyrighted item. So my store got banned, and I tried to hold on to what I could by recreating a very similar store that just got banned again. At first, I felt so bad for losing the only business that I had running, but eventually I realized this was the wake-up call that I needed to get started with the things that I really wanted to do in my life. By January, I had around $15 saved. $15. By January, I had around $15,000 saved up. I decided that I would give myself 1 year to build a new business without having to worry about my living expenses. So in the same month, I decided that I would focus all of my energy into Facebook ads because I previously gave up and now realized all the money that I could have made if I just stuck to Facebook ads. I also swore to myself that this time I wouldn't give up no matter how long it takes. For the next 3 months, I struggled to overcome all the Facebook bans that were coming my way, and I had to delete my personal Facebook account over 3 times. This was actually the worst time in history to start Facebook ads because there were the elections and Facebook was just banning people left, right, and center. During that time, I also launched a bunch of random products and random stores that didn't work. In March of 2021, I finally got my first results with dropshipping on Facebook ads. This time, I started selling some personalized products, and it worked really well. In the following month, I worked really hard to improve the overall quality of my business, branding, the products, the marketing, and in July of 2021, I did my first $100,000 in revenue in a single month, and the craziest part is that I did that for 3 consecutive months. I kept grinding, and in October, I did my first mentorship with e-commerce entrepreneurs that did over 8 figures in sales. It was a super enriching experience to learn from people that did such big numbers, and they taught me how to prioritize, strategize, and work like a professional. This was also when I started to focus on building a brand instead of just keeping to do dropshipping and testing many products. I decided to stay in the same niche, and now I'm building a brand that I want to be proud of. So what am I doing now? I'm still working on growing this brand day to day. It's a very slow and complicated process, but I think it's gonna be well worth it over the years. I'm also starting this YouTube channel to give you the best advice that I possibly can about dropshipping, e-commerce, and business in general. To conclude this video, here are 4 lessons that I've learned along the way during my e-commerce journey. Lesson number 1, don't get lost when you get your first result. Just keep your head down, keep grinding, and don't spend all your money like I did. Lesson number 2, don't be in a hurry to succeed. If you really like what you're doing, you're prepared to do it for the next 5 to 10 years. In my journey, I was always in a hurry to get to the next milestone, when in reality, it just cost me more time because I had a bad mindset. Lesson number 3, patience. You have to take the time to solve the problems that you are facing and find out why it's not working. Don't do what I did, for example, when I skipped Facebook ads because I thought it wouldn't work for me because I just spent $200 on it and didn't get any result. And the lesson number 4 is never give up. In the long run, I can confidently say that I'm on the right track to becoming who I want to be and that the risks that I took were totally worth it. If you found some value in this video, consider subscribing because I'm really dedicated to growing this channel and providing the maximum value that I can. Leave a comment with your question and I will respond to it. Drop a like. I'll catch you next week. Peace out.